for those of you out there that are looking at all these relationships and realizing that, man, I don't have any 10 and 20 year relationships and I'm burning through people and all these relationships are short lived and people don't have my back, it's probably you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rob Dubé, and I am here with Gino Wickman. Gino, how are you?
Fantastic.
Whoa. The quiet voice. I love when you bring that out.
It's my sexy voice.
Yes, it really is. Okay, so today, Gino, we're going to dive into a topic that all driven people wrestle with, and that's who you surround yourself with in your life. And so what I want us to discuss is intentionally choosing who you allow into your life and into your energy field. So whether it's your inner circle, your business collaborators, your team, or even just your community, this episode is about alignment in your life. So who you spend time with will either elevate your purpose or quietly pull you off course. And so we're not going to focus on tactics like hiring or retention if you have a business. We're going to explore something deeper, and that is how to become the kind of person who attracts the right people, those who match your values, your energy, and your vision. And that all starts on the inside. You have to be willing to look inward and align your own energy first. And from that centered place, you naturally begin to attract others who are aligned. Not just skilled people in this world, but soulful contributors to what you're building. So I always like to tee it up for you, Gino, and I'm wondering if anything's coming to mind for you.
Well, there are things coming to mind. I just don't know if I'm on point with you. So,
Okay, that's all right.
Hold me to
Yeah,
task.
no problem.
But the first thing that shot into my mind on this topic is something I call the soul of the company. So for almost 20 years now, I've been teaching every leader about the soul of their company. And the soul of a company is defined by two things, and that is the core values of the company and the core focus of the company. And so core values are clear. Core focus is really about the passion, the purpose, the cause of the business. And when those two things are clear, the soul of the company is clear. And when those two things are not clear, the company is, as I like to say, soulless. It's just you have no soul as an organization. And so I want to start on the business side of things because we're certainly going to talk about the personal and business side of things in terms of attracting people and surrounding yourself with great people. But when the soul of your organization is clear, you attract people like a magnet that are the right people to align with. Now, we can go deeper into that. I'm going to leave it to you to decide how deep you want to go. But I want to start with that context about, is the soul of your company clear? And if it's not, you are attracting a hodgepodge of things. Point one. Point two is, now I'm going to go to a balance of both personal and business, because when I talk about core values, same thing in your personal life. When your personal core values are clear, you will start to attract people that align with your core values. There's these wonderful core value cards that I love taking people through in their personal life. It's by Think to Perform is the company that sells these online. It's this beautiful pack of cards, like 52 different core values. And you go through a process where you discover your personal core values. So for those of you out there that have not defined your personal core values, that's a great opportunity to do that, because when those are clear, you will start to attract, again, the right people, like I said, but you'll also start to repel the ones that aren't. So that's really important. And then last 2 points as kind of conversation starters are, when you interact with people, whether that's in business or in your personal life, just check your body. Your body knows when you are surrounded with the right person that aligns with your energy and all these things we're talking about. You're just going to feel it. It's like just this sense of peace and calm and knowing. And when they don't align, you're going to feel that. And it's so apparent. So just start listening to your body. And then the last thing is, discipline number 10, be humble. This is probably the most important message, because this is a great gauge as to where you are on that spectrum of being humble and arrogant. And if you are arrogant, you attract what you are. You will find that you have more arrogant people in your life. So just put the radar up. do that exercise where we urge you to ask 5 people in your life, where are you on the spectrum? And again, on the other side, if you're very humble, you'll tend to attract humble people in your life. So you need to think about, as you go forward in life, you want to go forward with a bunch of people that have humility and are humble, or you want to be surrounded by a bunch of people that are arrogant.
Yeah. So, yesterday we were catching up a little bit, and you had a meeting with somebody important in your life. And, I was reflecting a little bit on that later after our meeting, and just how we kind of develop a team in our life personally, but it's also business related, because this was kind of more of it was a business / personal person in your life. And so, what I'm curious about for you is, when did you start thinking, if ever, I'm building this team around me of people that, these are people like on the professional side, lawyers, accountants, wealth managers. On the personal side could be like spiritual coaches or people that help you go deeper in your life in various modalities, things of that nature. All of a sudden you take a look and you're surrounded by a team. And then you might feel certain energy with 1 or 2 of them that doesn't feel quite aligned, but you've known them a long time and you stick with them. That's not what you were saying, but that happens with people.
Yeah.
So, talk about that, because this is where I'm trying to go with energy and attracting those people.
Yeah.
Because we can't do this alone.
Yeah.
Can't do this life alone.
Yeah, and that's the reason I started with core values and core focus, for lack of a better term, because you got to really be clear on who you are. And again, that's what you're going to attract. And I think when you're not clear on who you are, you're just putting up like this staticky message. So I can't remember who we were talking about in the conversation yesterday. So I'm a little distracted trying to remember that, but it's not relevant, because I know the point you're trying to ask. And so, so as I think about my life at 57 years old, and the people I have in my business life around me and the people I have in my personal life around me, it's a pretty good team. And let's start with business. It's years in the making, so this is what's important, is it's not like you're going to listen to this podcast episode and 6 months from now, you're going to have these 20 people around you that are perfect. It's a process. This is 10-year thinking now we're talking about. Take a long-term outlook. And so as I look back, these relationships that I currently have, they're closing in on 30 years, some of them. And so it takes time. It also takes time to determine if they're not the right one. And so, you mentioned attorney. I have an amazing attorney. I think 15 years we've been together. I went through so many attorneys prior to him. It didn't click. This one's great. My accountant has been with me for over 30 years, almost 40 years, as crazy as that is. We just have always clicked. Again, time, I'm doing the math right now in my head. I'm thinking about, 5, 10, 15, 20 years we've been together. But, I kissed a lot of toads. And then on my personal life, I'll be redundant to repeat all of that. Yeah. But, friends, it's like you start hanging out with somebody, it doesn't feel right. You make that quick decision. And I've got my high school friends. So do the math on that. What is that? 45 years we've been hanging out. Maybe a little less than that. I have 40-year friends, 30-year friends, 20-year friends. So hopefully that's the answer.
So for the listener, take a look at your inner circle, and then the circle beyond that circle, and the circle beyond that circle. And really, I encourage you to take a close look at who those people are. Now, I had something, no coincidence, this came up yesterday after our meeting. I met up with somebody and they were asking me some questions about who does my wealth management. So we got into this conversation, and through that conversation, this person shared with me that she'd been using her spouse's uncle for years and kind of felt obligated. But this person, the uncle, the wealth manager, had done a great job for them, but something wasn't feeling right to her. And so that's why she was asking me about the person I use. And I said, well, what's really going on? And she said, I don't really know, because he does do a good job. And I just encouraged her, I don't know, something's telling you inside that something doesn't feel right. And I just encouraged her to follow that, because you don't want somebody in your life where you feel like that. And that's, maybe some of you out there can relate to that. Maybe there's somebody in your life like that that it just doesn't feel right, but yet you keep them around for what seems like what I like to call analytical reasons. So consider that. Is anything coming up for you?
Yeah, the thought that's coming up, I think it's in the same vein, but maybe a little different. So 10-year thinking is coming up for me, and I'm thinking about that person, like what flashed into my mind in the situation you're describing is I'm thinking about this person that knows they're in a bad relationship. Now, when I say that, I'm not talking about a marriage. I'm talking about, it could be as simple as, like you're talking about, your accountant, your attorney, an employee, a business partner. It could be anything, but you're in a bad relationship. Just meaning, it's a terrible term to use. There's not an alignment there. There's not an energy match there. And I think about that person who's sitting there, and in this case, I'm picturing this 45-year-old, okay, that's thinking, but I'm 45 and life's almost over and I don't want to go through the process of finding a new attorney, accountant, of this or that. When 10-year thinking says, by my math, it's going to take you 1 or 2 years to fully replace that person and feel good about the next person. But you're going to be 47. You still have 40 good years left. So 10-year thinking says zoom out. Don't get so fixated on, oh my God, it's going to be a tumultuous year making this change. No, look at how beautiful your life is going to be 10 years from now. It is so worth it. So every decision with these people, at least in the last 30 years, or worst case, the last 20 years, I'm taking this 10-year outlook that says this is a 10-year relationship at a minimum that I'm forming here. So when it doesn't feel right, it's a no-brainer to just get to work on making that change for how exciting 10 and 20 and 30 years from now can look.
Yeah, I love that you're bringing that up, because one of the questions that came to me when I was preparing was what gets in our way of making conscious choices around who we surround ourselves with. And I was thinking about myself. So personal share, sometimes I've just made the mistake of rushing in to fill a role of an important person in my life because I just felt pressure and I wanted to check the box and move on and find the perfect person. And sometimes it backfires. And actually, oftentimes it backfires. And what I did was ignore my intuition and let patience drive the process. And then once I've done that, I might sit around and make excuses for the person, which are really just excuses for me because I wasn't patient and I don't want to admit I made a bad decision. But deep down, I knew they were not aligned. So, if you're listening, you might ask yourself, what part of me wants to move fast and avoid discomfort, even if it means compromising alignment in your life? Or what do I need to trust within myself to slow down and choose more consciously? So anything coming to mind for you?
Yeah, it's a kind of a new thought, but so what I wrote down is burning through people. Okay, so I'm thinking about
great.
all of my driven entrepreneur clients that I've personally worked with, and then driven people in general in all walks of life, how they just burn through people and burn out people. And so it's like coming so clear. And the message I want to send is, if you out there are struggling with forming these relationships that we're talking about, I'm going to say this as nice as I can. And I'm bringing something in, an aha from like 3 months ago during annual season, but it's you. And so it was too uncanny, but in a 2-week span, 3 different clients at the conclusion of the annual planning uttered the exact same words. They said, "It's me." So we got to the end of those 2 days and they finally saw that it was them. It's me. I'm the reason. So I want to, that's coming up in such a strong way right now for those of you out there that are looking at all these relationships and realizing that, man, I don't have any 10 and 20-year relationships and I'm burning through people and all these relationships are short-lived and people don't have my back. It's probably you. But here's the good news. At your core, your true self, your soul is this beautiful ball of light. You are perfect. And so there's some shit from the past that's hanging on to you. Let it go. You deserve everything we're talking about. You're capable of everything we're talking about, but you got to start with that, confronting yourself and acknowledging that if this, in fact, what I'm describing is you, or you're having these experiences, it's probably you. And there's hope. And so whether you're sitting there at 35 or 45 or 55 or 65 or even 75, there's still hope. you've got at least one, if not 2 or 3 good decades left to build an amazing life. So for what that's worth.
You just made me think of I have an outline for a book that I created called You're the Problem.
That's it. That's
I
it.
always like that title. But anyway, one thing I wanted to mention is that I noticed a pattern in my own life that became kind of a compass. And that was, I started to notice what I like to call somebody who's a hard person or somebody who's a hard, easy person. And so what we do know for sure is life is going to present challenges no matter what. And some people make hard times even harder, and that's hard. And others remain steady and collaborative throughout tough times, and that's hard, easy. And so once I started to see that, I got a lot clearer about who belonged in my life and my business. Obviously, hard, easy people are the best people to be around. So, anything else coming up for you on this one, Gino?
I've got nothing else.
All right, thank you. And then we're out of time. What? That's it? Get out of here. All right, everyone. Well, thanks again for joining us. I want to encourage you, surround yourself with people who light you up, who challenge you to grow and hold you accountable to your highest self. So we'll see you next time. And as always, stay focused and much love.
Thank you for listening in today. We truly appreciate you taking the time to spend with us, and please tune in for the next episode. Until then, we wish you all the best in freeing your true self. Stay focused and much love.